Computers that created by combining different types of hardware such as motherboard, processors, memory modules, video card, hard disks, monitor and various input devices such as keyboard and mouse. By replacing of this hardware with higher capacity is limited in laptop computers. But in desktop computers it's much easier to replace all hardware with higher capacities. In other words, desktop computers can be kept up to date for a longer period of time as technical capacity. Laptop computers are much more suitable for mobility because of their own batteries and compact sizes. This flexibility of computer depends on the compatibility of hardware and the software that manages these devices. By using the manager software, different software and different hardware of the computer works in harmony with each other, and this manager software is also called the operating system. Operating systems and the hardware's special managing software must work in full compatibility with each other. The user interacts with the computer through operating system. The operating system turns on the interaction and communication with all the hardware components each other also. The operating system itself is a type of system software designed to operate the computer whole system. However, the operating system internally makes use of another set of system software that used to manage and control all the hardware components. Pressing the power button of the computer activates a special software stored in the ROM chip on the motherboard, known as BIOS, EFI, UEFI, and the software performs the basic operations called POST, Power of Self-Test. BIOS is basic input-output system. EFI is Extensible Firmware Interface, and UEFI is Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. POST is a process performed by firmware and software routines after the computer turned on. POST first detects peripheral devices and system components and runs the internal software as well of this hardware. When the operating system starts to load, it first runs the hardware by using BIOS, EFI, UEFI and system devices it will manage. Many software with different features depending on user needs are loaded into a memory and run. Operating systems quickly switch between processes, allowing a small amount of time slots to each run process. By this way, operating system allows multiple processes to be executed at the same time. The operating system, which allocates a certain amount of time for each executed process, stops and saves the executing process also. After the process finishes or the given process time expires, operating system applies the same cycle to execute to the next process. One of the most important problems encountered for the computers, where numerous processes are executed, is that one processor can actually execute a single process at the same time. Sometimes the cycle may be interrupted and another operation may be done. For this purpose, the operating system also arranges the executed processes in order to priority. In this way, it's ensured that critical operations of the system are performed before other operations. System software is the first layer of the software to be loaded into memory every time a computer is powered up. If a user wants to write and print a document, first a word processor application is required. Data input is done using a keyboard and then displayed on the monitor. After that, the prepared data is then sent to a printer. For the word processor, keyboard and the printer work together for this task. They must also work with the operating system, which controls input and output functions, memory management and printing functions also. All digital-based devices have operating systems. These operating systems can be produced specifically for the device and the company, or these operating systems can be produced for the general purpose. Every computer software is created by using source code that tells a program how to run. In this way, the creators who prepare their products decide whether the source code should be open source or closed source. Now we have a new question. What's a closed source operating system? Closed source software is a type of computer software whose source code is related under a license. The copyright holder of this license grants users the right to use its software for a fee. This right of use can be in the form of a periodical subscription or in the form of a one-time payment. The user cannot change or modify the operating system code because operating system's code is proprietary and kept secret to prevent its use. User may face legal penalties if the code has changed. The vast majority of applications, games and other popular software is closed source. Now we have another question. What's an open source operating system? Open source operating systems use code that is freely distributed and available to anyone to use for any purposes. User can change, modify, or develop this operating system code related with their requirements. So operating systems code is open to modify. User may not face legal penalties if the code has changed. Open source operating systems use code that is freely distributed and available to anyone to use. There are different types of open source options for many types of closed source programs. Instead of using Microsoft Office, you can use LibreOffice. And instead of using Windows, you can also use Linux operating system distributions. Both types of operating systems have advantages and disadvantages. Open source operating system may not be as user-friendly as closed source operating systems, and it may be difficult to find technical support for open source operating systems. However, if closed source operating system has any bugs or missing features, you will have to wait the authority person to address the problems also. Many open source operating systems such as Linux, FreeBSD and Kali do not cost anything. And also closed source operating systems can either be free or offered for a price like Microsoft Windows and Apple iOS. Some of these operating systems come pre-installed on many new computers, though you don't have to pay separately for it, because the cost of the Windows license is into the price of the computer. After talking about open and closed source operating systems, we can also talk about the mobile operating systems. Mobile operating systems can be open source or closed source also. Due to the increasing use of mobile devices, mobile operating systems that support desktop applications mobile versions are developing more and more every day. A mobile operating system allows mobile devices like smartphones, tablets, and other smart wearable devices to run applications and other programs. Mobile operating systems also manage cellular and wireless network connectivity, as well as phone access. Android operating system is an open source and Linux-based mobile operating system sponsored by Google. Android applications are usually written in Java programming language and offers a wide range of libraries that enable application developers to build different applications. This means that mobile device OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, can customize the Android source code and customize it to fit their devices. With these specifications, Android provides core services such as security, memory and process management, network connections, and different driver models. Apple iOS is a closed source code that developed by Apple that is used by only Apple products like iPhone and iPad. Apple has created a closed communication ecosystem with different types of smart devices that work in harmony with iOS-based closed operating systems by using closed source code. watchOS for the Apple Watch and iPadOS for the iPad tablets are the members of this closed communication ecosystem. Apple regulates all these desktop and mobile applications and services which can run on the Apple brand devices by using iOS, runs on its own special kernel. Other operating systems such as Symbian, Windows Mobile, Palm or BlackBerry are not used much nowadays. They were not preferred much because they couldn't be updated to meet current needs. Their user interfaces were not easy to use or the developer support was weak. The fact that hardware technologies continue to develop day by day causes portable devices to be used much more. For this reason, operating systems are changing to be used on portable devices like laptops and tablets.